Hello and welcome to Nightline. I'm Norzipa Wanche. The headlines. 3 dead in Utrecht tram shooting. And 2 more chemical waste dump sites found in Pasir Gudang. Dutch police were hunting down a suspect following a shooting on a tram in the central Dutch city of Utrecht, which killed at least 3 and wounded 9 others on Monday. It is understood that the suspect was identified as 37-year-old Gokam Tanis, who was born in Turkey. Dutch police tweeted a photograph of the Turkish-born, believed to have been captured on the tram's CCTV just 4 minutes before the incident at 10:45 a.m. local time. Public were urged to look out for the suspect but have been warned not to approach. Authorities have raised the terrorism threat to its highest level in Utrecht province, with schools told to shut their doors, while paramilitary police have increased security at airports and other vital infrastructure as well as mosques. In the incident, the gunman, who may not have been acting alone, reportedly opened fire at the 24 October Square tram stop before he fled the scene, reportedly in a stolen red Renault Clio. The car has since been found abandoned in Utrecht. Two more rivers in Pasir Gudang have been found to have been used as dump sites for chemical wastes. In the first case, about 10 plastic barrels believed to contain chemical substances were found in Sungai Masai next to the Pasir Gudang highway, while another 7 barrels were found dumped in Sungai Sembilang, which is about 500 meters from SMK Tanjung Putri Resort. Taman Tanjung Putri Resort resident Ahmad Roh Arifin claimed that the liquid from the barrels have already seeped into the river and caused a rancid-like odour. He said the barrels were discovered by residents last Thursday, but claimed that no action was taken until Monday. The police have cordoned off the area, and the Fire and Rescue Department's Hazardous Materials Unit, HAZMAT, are currently carrying out checks and surveillance in the area. Efforts to get comments from the authorities have proved unsuccessful, and a press conference by Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change Minister Yeo Bee Yin was cancelled at the last minute. Police have arrested 9 individuals over the illegal dumping of chemical waste into Kim Kim River in Pasir Gudang that poisoned over 1,000 people. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Muhammad Fuzi Harun said 2 were arrested in Johor and 7 more picked up outside of Johor following an aggressive hunt involving Bukit Aman and State Police.
Jumlah yang ditangkap ni 9 orang setakat ni, dan kita siasat di bawah kanun kesiasaan Seksyen 278, 284 dan Seksyen 326 Kanun Keseksaan.
Tan Sri Muhammad Fuzi confirmed that all the suspects are male but declined to elaborate further. The IGP also said they have been remanded until March 23rd to assist with investigation. To date, 76 police reports have been lodged on the incident. In the meantime, Education Minister Dr. Mazli Malik said schools in Pasir Gudang will remain closed until the term break next week. He said the decision was made after a briefing with authorities and experts involved in the chemical dumping incident at Pasir Gudang. According to Dr. Mazli, the ministry will decide whether the schools can reopen after the term break ends. He also said the ministry has not decided on the school's replacement days as a result of the enforced closure, saying the matter will be discussed later. On March 13th, the ministry announced that all 111 schools in Pasir Gudang would be closed following the illegal chemical dumping in Sungai Kim Kim, which caused a number of students to fall sick after inhaling toxic fumes. In Johor, the school term break begins on March 22nd until March 30. And in Selangor, Sultan Sharafuddin Idris Shah on Monday decreed that the state government must come down hard on those who release effluents into rivers. This after the Selangor Sultan was informed that 4 of 5 rivers in the state have been polluted by solid and toxic wastes.
Kita menyeru kepada kerajaan negeri Selangor supaya melaksanakan penguatkuasaan yang lebih serius terhadap mereka yang melepaskan sisa-sisa buangan ke sungai. Jika perlu, undang-undang hendaklah dibuat untuk mengenakan hukuman yang berat kepada pesalah-pesalah yang mencemarkan sungai-sungai di negeri Selangor ini.
Sultan Sharafuddin was speaking during the opening of the first meeting of the second session of the 14th Selangor State Assembly at Bangunan Dewan Negeri Selangor. Also present were the Tengku Permaisuri of Selangor, Tengku Permaisuri Nur Ashikin, and the Raja Muda of Selangor, Tengku Amir Shah. The ruler said that the people must be educated through awareness campaigns on the need to maintain cleanliness of rivers, which are a source of water in the state. He also wanted water catchments and forest reserves in Selangor to be well maintained and preserved to ensure adequate and unaffected water source in the future. He further said that the state government must ensure that forest reserves and water catchment areas are clear of logging activities and extend tree planting programs at all levels, as well as have local authorities preserve the green environment. Sultan Sharafuddin's decree comes in the wake of effluent pollution of the Kim Kim River in Pasir Gudang, Johor, that released toxic fumes into the air and sent some 1,000 people to hospital. The contamination also forced the closure of all 111 schools there and necessitated a massive cleanup of the river. The remains of the 2 Malaysians who were killed in the Lombok earthquake are expected to be brought home on Tuesday. According to Malaysian Embassy Police Attaché in Indonesia, Abu Bakar Yaakob, the remains of Sinchu Daily Deputy Editor Datin Tai Siu Kim and another woman known only as Lim Sai Wah will be flown home by Garuda Airlines at 9:40 a.m. He said the plane will make a transit in Jakarta before continuing its journey to Kuala Lumpur at 1:30 p.m. Abu Bakar added that the delay in bringing home the remains was due to the post-mortem conducted by the Lombok hospital, which was completed on Monday evening. He also revealed that the cost to fly home the remains of Datin Tai and Lim will be fully borne by the victims' travel agency, the Indonesian government and Garuda Airlines. The other 14 Malaysians who were expected to arrive home on Monday night will also be flown home on Tuesday, while 7 other Malaysians who were injured in the earthquake are receiving treatment at the Lombok hospital. The Malaysian High Commission in Wellington is exhausting all efforts to locate Malaysian teen Muhammad Haziq Muhammad Tarmizi, who is listed as missing following the attacks at 2 mosques in Christchurch. However, a spokesman from the High Commission said they could only do so much due to lack of manpower and legal limitations. TV3 was made to understand that Malaysian representatives in Christchurch were checking with hospitals as well as the authorities and local communities. 17-year-old Haziq is the son of Muhammad Tarmizi Shuib, 42, who is currently being treated for gunshot wounds at the Christchurch hospital following Friday's massacre at the Al-Nur Mosque. On the legal limitations, the High Commission spokesman said, due to the country's Privacy Act 1993, the best hope was for an update from the New Zealand government. He said the New Zealand government had stated that they will release all the names of the deceased by Wednesday after they finish contacting family members. After the break, government expands food bank program to local varsities. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The move to transfer underperforming assets from Tabung Haji to a Special Purpose Vehicle (SPV) has helped to restore the Pilgrim Fund's balance sheet. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Datuk Sri Dr. Mujahid Yusof Rawa, said with the transfer, TH's assets now amount to 76.5 billion ringgit against liabilities of 75.5 billion ringgit, giving it a 1 billion ringgit surplus.
Keseluruhan itu melibatkan 19.9 bilion nilai pindah kepada aset yang underperforming ini, menyebabkan dengan itu kita telah berjaya memulihkan yang ni kena rekod di sini ya, memulihkan kita punya balance sheet daripada yang dulu aset lebih rendah daripada tanggungan, sekarang dengan kejayaan pemulihan dan penstrukturan semula, kita pada Disember 2018 telah berjaya meletakkan aset kita 76.5 bilion berbanding dengan tanggungan dan deposit 75.5 bilion, 75.5 bilion. Ini bermakna kita telah menutup lubang yang telah dibuka luas oleh pimpinan sebelum itu, dan dengan itu kita akan insya-Allah mengeluarkan hibah yang akan kita announce bukan di sini insya-Allah dalam masa terdekat.
Datuk Sri Dr. Mujahid said this in his reply to Datuk Salim Sharif at the Dewan Rakyat, who wanted to know whether the transfer of assets to the SPV would affect dividend payments to TH depositors. He said the assets were transferred to Urus Harta Jamaah Sendirian Berhad, a company wholly owned by the Ministry of Finance. They comprise 29 real estate assets, an unlisted company, and 106 domestic security assets. The minister said the transfer of the assets was also necessary to enable TH to continue paying out dividends in accordance with the Tabung Haji Act 1995. The legislation prohibits the paying of dividends if its liabilities exceeded its assets. Malaysia is willing to consider issuing another samurai bond if it can obtain rates similar to the 0.63% per annum achieved in the earlier issuance of the 200 billion yen or approximately 7.3 billion ringgit last week. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said if the Japan Bank for International Cooperation, JBIC, is willing to give a similar low rate, the government will definitely consider it very seriously.
This is a testimony to Japanese investors' confidence in the Malaysian economy and the fiscal reforms carried out by the government under the leadership of Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad. The government of Malaysia is firmly committed to fiscal sustainability in order to strengthen our resilience and achieve sustainable as well as equitable growth for all Malaysians.
He said that after the commemoration on the successful completion of the Samurai Bond issuance on Monday. Lim said proceeds from the Samurai Bond issuance would provide a breathing space for the government to honour its debt obligations as well as to finance infrastructure development, including the construction of schools, hospitals, roads and utilities. The government has approved a special fund of 3 million ringgit to expand food banks' outreach in the country. The fund, allocated for the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry to implement the Food Bank Malaysia program, targets the bottom 40% household income groups as well as students at 20 public universities. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng says the 3 million ringgit will be used to purchase 14 refrigerated lorries that will transport surplus food supply, including perishable food items, to the targeted poor families and students throughout the country.
Ini merupakan sebuah inisiatif awam swasta yang diusahakan oleh Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Saifuddin untuk memperluaskan capaian bank-bank makanan yang ditubuhkan oleh NGO dan pihak swasta dan memastikan bantuan dapat disampaikan kepada pihak yang memerlukannya.
Meanwhile, Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail explained that the Food Bank Malaysia program had started at Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia and Universiti Malaya on February 26 and March 7 respectively and will be expanded to more public universities. The minister also said that a meeting he had with some 20 deputy vice-chancellors from 20 public universities on March 7 has resulted in some ideas on how the food will be distributed. Among them, University Students' Associations have agreed to form volunteer groups to help cook the food received for distribution.
Dan saya mengambil maklum isu mahasiswa mengikat perut seperti yang dilaporkan oleh media sebagai berita utama baru-baru ini yang mengundang Menteri Kewangan untuk buat panggilan subuh pada saya. Isu ini telah mendapat perhatian Kabinet sebenarnya dan topik ini telah dibincang beberapa kali secara mendalam bersama jamaah menteri.
Since the Food Bank Malaysia program was launched on December 22nd, 430 branches of various supermarkets have agreed to contribute food surplus to help the hardcore poor and the B40 students. Police have arrested 13 people comprising 12 Filipinos, one of whom is a woman, and a Malaysian in a series of crackdown in Sabah. They were nabbed allegedly for being members of terror groups and providing protection to terrorists. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Muhammad Fuzi Harun said all of them were picked up in Semporna and Tambunan on March 11 and 12. In a statement on Monday, Tan Sri Muhammad Fuzi said some of the suspects were believed to be members of the Abu Sayyaf Group, multi-terrorist group and Royal Sulu Force. The top cop also said authorities arrested 5 Filipinos and the Malaysian, aged between 40 and 60, in Semporna on March 11. 4 of them were suspected to have been involved in the multi-terrorist group siege of Marawi City, Philippines in 2017. They were also suspected of harboring multi-terrorists and several Middle Eastern nationals believed to be hiding in Sabah. He added that 2 others were suspected to be members of the Royal Sulu Force that was involved in the attacks in Lahad Datu and Semporna in 2013. In the second crackdown, also on March 11th, 5 Filipinos and 1 Filipina, aged between 23 and 63, were arrested in Tambunan. Suspected to be Abu Sayyaf group members, the 6 were involved in the Marawi conflict and slipped into Sabah last year to avoid crackdown by Philippines security forces. The last suspect, a 39-year-old Filipino, was also nabbed in Tambunan the following day for providing shelter to members of the terror groups who are still at large. All those detained are being investigated under the Security Offences Special Measures Act. In Malacca, 4 ticketing counter clerks at a water theme park in Alor Gajah, Malacca, are up against the possibility of a 14-year jail term after they were charged at the Alor Gajah Sessions Court on Monday with criminal breach of trust amounting to 100,000 ringgit last year. The accused, Farina Muhammad Yusof, 24, is Lalitha, 27, Nurlina Sulaiman, 35, and Zainah Jenal, 42, however, pleaded not guilty to the charge before Judge Ahmad Sazali Omar. The court allowed 12,000 ringgit bail each and set April 12th for case remention. Over in Selangor, an airport engineering vehicle driver is in critical condition after a private aircraft collided with the vehicle he was driving at the Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport runway in Subang. In a statement, Malaysia Airports said the driver, who is one of its personnel, is currently undergoing surgery after the accident that occurred at approximately 3:20 a.m. on Monday. Malaysia Airports also said the passengers and cabin crew of the aircraft were unharmed and that flight operations at the airport resumed to normal at 9 a.m. after the debris were cleared. Meanwhile, in Malacca, a man faces a 10-year jail sentence after he was charged by the Aikro Magistrates Court for hitting his wife with a laundry basket last month. The accused, 42-year-old Uzair Abdul Kadir, however, pleaded not guilty after the case was mentioned before Magistrate Muhammad Nazrin Ali Rahim. The accused is charged according to Section 324 of the Penal Code, read together with Section 326A of the same Act. Uzair was allowed bail at 4,000 ringgit, with the case set for remention on May 7th. After the break, the death toll rises from the deadly floods and landslides in Indonesia, and many more injured. Stay tuned. Welcome back. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said on Monday that her cabinet has made an in-principle decision to the nation's gun laws in the aftermath of the Christchurch mosque massacre. Ardern said the details are still to be worked out, but the changes to the country's firearms laws will be announced in full within 10 days.
This ultimately means that within 10 days of this horrific act of terrorism, we will have announced reforms which will, I believe, make our communities safer. In fact, I strongly believe that the vast majority of gun owners in New Zealand will agree with the sentiment that change needs to occur. I, in fact, believe that they will be with us.
Speaking at a press conference after a cabinet session, the Prime Minister also encouraged New Zealand gun owners to surrender their firearms. Ardern has indicated that her response to the mosque shootings may echo that taken in Australia, which enacted sweeping reforms of its gun laws after a massacre in 1996 left 35 people dead. New Zealand's gun ownership rate has risen in the past decade to become one of the highest in the world, yet its homicide rate remains well below global norms, as many of those weapons belong to hunters and farmers.
A few kilometres from where I am now.
Over in Indonesia, the death toll from floods and landslides in the easternmost province of Papua has risen to nearly 80 on Monday, as President Joko Widodo called for the urgent evacuation of victims from devastated communities. According to National Disaster Mitigation Agency spokesman Sutopo Purwo Nugroho, the worst hit area was Sentani sub-district after 79 bodies had been pulled from the mud and wreckage of crumpled homes by Sunday. Nugroho said another 74 people were hospitalized, many with broken bones and head wounds. The number of dead and injured would likely increase since affected areas had not been reached, with dozens remained unaccounted for. Flood waters and landslides also destroyed roads and bridges in several areas, hampering rescue efforts. Time around, we leave you with visuals of the unique ice cafe in Kashmir, India, which attracted thousands of visitors, including locals and tourists, in the isolated village located on the Leh Manal National Highway. With that, I'm Norzi Patwanche. Thank you for your time.